12. I became aware of smoke. I felt alarmed in a small, sectioned off part of my brain. In my line of work, smoke means someone made a mistake. Somebody forgot to check a tolerance convert from imperial. The smoke curled along the ceiling above me. I wasn't sure whose mistake it was, but it was pretty. Get up, said the part that was worried about the smoke. Another part said, lie here a little longer, and that felt more persuasive. I was doped. I was relaxed. I would never feel this peaceful again, not without chemical assistance. Something slooshed. Something went like an old man easing into a favorite chair. I felt wet, but also safe and warm and protected. I closed my eyes. Someone coughed. I opened my eyes because that was disconcerting. I waited, hoping it might go away. Cark, cark. It sounded perfunctory, like the owner didn't expect it to do much good. I pondered its implications, or I floated along on its implications. I let its implications surround me without penetrating. I might have done this for a while, but water began falling on my body. I thought maybe rain, but then probably not because I could see the ceiling. I felt my dream state dissolving was sad, but it was also good because I could feel myself coming back. My thoughts began to organize themselves. I raised my head. I was in an operating theater, of course I was. I had been brought here for surgery, but things lay scattered and overturned. A gurney dripped stance equipment that looked like somebody should be keeping it sterile. Surgical blades glimmered from the floor tiles and rapidly pulling water like coins in a wishing well. A long crack ran up the wall. I thought, earthquake? Cark. I saw a man slumped against the wall. His green scrubs were speckled dark down the front. His lips were red. He stared dully at his legs, which jutted out on the tiles. His eyes rose to mine. He blinked once slowly. Help, I said. He didn't react. I felt a little bad because obviously this guy needed some help too. I planted my right hand on the table and levered myself up on my left elbow, or tried to. It didn't work. I looked down to see what the problem was. I tied a blood wash from a gash in my left shoulder. Or not a gash, the opposite of that. Gash implied a cut in something otherwise whole. I had ropey strings of skin and muscle connecting me to an arm that was otherwise severed. On the tiles discarded with something I first mistook for a drill, but it wasn't. It had a long, flat blade. Liquid red ribbons threaded the water around it. It was an electric saw. I looked at the guy on the tiles. Did you? I said, because this guy looked like a surgeon. I thought maybe he had started to amputate my arm, but not finished. Can you? My voice was a croak. My throat felt abused. The man stared at me without expression. His head bobbed with each beat of his heart. Why? Cark, went the surgeon, and he made a fresh dark spatter down his scrubs. He was not going to help. He was going to lie there and die. Or lie there and watch me die and then die himself. I felt panic. It was not a good time to panic. It was time for objective clinical assessment. But an ocean of blood was draining out of a canyon in my flesh, and my brain gibbered. That's fatal. You're going to lose consciousness. I lifted my right arm. I had a right arm without any real plan, and saw bright red. I was lying on a red bath. Blood ran over the sides of the table and pattered on the tiles below. I was a bloody water feature. There was too much blood here. I should be dead. My legs looked odd, as in I had some. Beneath the saturated green surgical cloth was a definite leg shape. Tubes ran between layers of the cloth to nearby devices. A black box on a trolley, 4 different drips. The box was making the slooshing sounds. With each sloosh, the tubes connected to it buckled, dark fluid moving through them. I decided this was keeping me alive. At this moment, the box stopped slooshing and started slurping like an enthusiastic child, chasing the last of a milkshake. Beige spots appeared where the tube was connected to the box and raced toward my body. I grabbed my mostly severed arm and tried to mash it back on. It was like handling a steak. The sounds, it wasn't the squishing that got me, the suckling or squelching. It was the rasping. I almost couldn't do it. I didn't want to die, so I did. Blood squirted. I couldn't seal it properly. Help, I said, before I'd been prepared to cut the dying guy some slack. But now I really needed him. Help me, you crap. I fell up to the edge of the table so I could see him while holding my arm. His eyes were empty. He had died. The effing guy had died. I felt rage. I wanted to go over there and cut off his arm and die in front of him and see how he liked it. I felt terror and dizziness and regret. I so very much didn't want to die. I felt cheated and angry at someone or something. I whipped my head around in case there was something useful nearby I hadn't noticed, like maybe a surgeon who wasn't dead. My eyes fell on the electric, so it was a long way away. I didn't know if I could reach it, and maybe this was just as well, because it was such a bad thing to lie back, close my eyes, and not saw off my arm. No one would blame me for that, but it would mean dying, and I didn't want to die. I was more sure of the closer I got to it. So I strained and stretched and looped my fingers around the saw's cord. I pulled the cord in my mouth to change the grip and pulled again. It was a long cord. I pulled and bit and pulled and got the idea that maybe this cord had no end, because wouldn't that be hilarious? It was like string theory. It could be quantumly entangled. The saw clanked onto the metal table. I remembered what I was doing and groped for the power button. One time in a mall I saw a guy demonstrating an electric carving knife. He was showing a silver-haired couple how easily the knife could whir through roast chicken, slicing off strips of steaming meat with a noise like "ree." For some reason I expected this to sound different. With my access arm out of the way, I clamped shut the artery. I'll spare you the specifics. Let's just say it was a temporary solution involving my fingers. I needed to buy enough time to get off the table and find medical assistance. I didn't even care that those a-holes had sawed off my arm. I would forgive them that if they helped me live. I leaned forward and took the green surgical cloth in my teeth. I pulled it back, then leaned forward for another bite. Each time I dragged the cloth a few inches closer. I was hoping to reveal a set of contour 3s down there, because otherwise I was essentially stuck on this table. I tugged the cloth and it bunched up around my face. I tried to nose it aside. I was tempted to take my hand off my artery because that would be so much quicker, but I didn't, because it would also be fatal. I caught a glimpse of black titanium and thought, oh, thank God. The cloth center of gravity passed the edge of the table and began to slide to the floor by itself. I saw more metal and more, and as the cloth passed my thighs, I thought, what is that? Because there was metal where my thighs should be. There was metal instead of hips and a metal stomach, and my belly button was a logo, a circular design that even upside down I recognized as better features. And still the cloth slid, and I was metal all the way up. A titanium landscape. Tubes led from a gap somewhere beneath my chin, carrying fluids to and from the metal, and I was connected to the metal by tubes and nothing else. I sucked in breath to scream, and 2 of the tubes rose slightly, feeding me air, and I lost it all in a sound like deflating tire. I had an arm, I had a shoulder, I had a head. I wasn't sure what else. A face appeared. Its hair was matted with blood. It belonged to a boy. One of the eyes was the deepest brown, and the other the regular brown. He said, Dr. Newman. Oh, Dr. Newman. He disappeared. He's alive, he returned. Water fell into his hair and down his nose. His mismatched eyes swam with concern. It's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. He touched my hair, hesitant, then with confidence. You can do it. Hold on, hold on. The room filled with noise. Someone took hold of my head from behind. People in green scrubs and moved in and messed with my tubes. No one looked at my face. Something clicked. I heard a high-pitched whine and a deep hum. I felt sharp pain in my neck and spread warmth, and I twisted around to see who was doing that. My hands on my head tightened. Blood, someone said, and someone else said, got it. Hands pried my fingers away. I resisted, but they were firm. I began to feel heavy. Someone said, he's alive, in a tone that suggested she did not really want to hear the answer. Cassandra Caudry's face hovered. She held a hand towel to her ear, stained red. Her hair was the color of ash. Her jaw muscles reminded me of insects that could bear food many times their own weight. But she had no expression. Charlie, you woke in the middle of a bad dream, it's all. I tried to hold my eyelids open. Back to sleep now. We'll finish up here and everything will be fine. I began to cry a little because now I was going to live. I regained consciousness all at once, like turning on. I was standing. I was surrounded by light. The operating theater was clean. It was not raining. It was full of cats and people in green scrubs, and all of them were looking at me. Got him, Jason said. Had a small laptop balanced on one hand and poked at it with the other. A cord came out of the laptop and ran into a mess of other cords going in all directions. Something was wrapped around my head. Something hummed. A young woman stepped out in front of me. Elaine, I remembered. Her eyes were orange. Dr. Newman, can you hear me? I nodded. I tried to touch my neck to see what was there, and something went woo. He's trying to move his arm, leg now. Lots of motion requests. I looked down. My legs were contour 3s, black, titanium. My hips were conjoined ring sections. Metal crawled up my chest. I had arms. They hung from insulated chains from the ceiling. One was silver and ended in a 3-pronged claw, each prong a long, multi-articulated digit. The other was black with a thin tubular biceps and a bulbous forearm. I had no hand I could see. I gagged. I did not feel sick, not physically. I felt strong and alert and a little cold, but my brain vomited wrong. Dr. Newman? Jason slid closer. You're probably feeling strange right now, but when you calm down, you're going to realize this is really cool. Bringing up tactile. A lightning storm of pins and needles ran through my body. The metal parts stopped being objects and started being me. I had been able to feel before, but not like this. Nothing like this. I remembered their bumped surface, which I'd felt in lab too. Help me, I said. Enhanced sensory feedback. It's like 1,000,000 times better, isn't it? We use it ourselves, because the point at which better feelings could reproduce the full spectrum and fidelity of biology-based sensation, we passed that a while ago. Registering with core, said Mirka, seeing that. We're talking out loud, said Jason, so you can follow along. Hunger roared through me as an idea rather than a feeling. I was suddenly very sure I needed food. "Whoa," said a girl with yellow eyes. "Dampen that. We'll hook you into better voice in a minute," said Jason. "You can initiate chats and save contacts in an address book and everything." I thought, Lola, Lola. Tears splashed on my chest with a sound like punk, punk. "You're making him cry," said Mirka, correcting, bridging waveforms. Mirka said, "He's still crying. Levels look okay, though. Maybe he's really sad." Jason went away and came back with a tissue. He wiped one of my cheeks and the other. "Dr. Newman?" I opened my mouth, but there was no air. I manually inhaled in a gasp. "Where is my body?" Do you mean your old organic parts?" "Well, incinerated. There's not really anything else you could do with them." "Still really sad," said Mirka. "Active correction, yes." Stars burst inside my head, wild and brilliant, full of suggestion. Jason said, "Do you remember when I asked you about ethics? You wanted to suppress your guilt, and I said maybe we shouldn't, and you said there was no such thing as shouldn't. Actually, you didn't even understand the question." "Well, I get that now. I totally get it, because sometimes you feel a kind of biological revulsion against an idea, but it's only because you're not used to it, right? It's just a matter of baselines, improving, approaching sync. I mean, it's not like there's any fundamental integrity of emotions, am I right? Everything's chemicals when you get down to it." My teeth chattered. Elaine said, "That's a sawtooth. Can we do anything about that?" Two cats, male, approached with power drills, positioned themselves against my abdomen. The drills went bree. "So the thing is," Jason said, "while we were away, we made a lot of military parts. I mean a lot, and management has been really, really anxious to get them into testing. Only we figured out that sticking them into random volunteers and seeing what happened, that wasn't such a great idea, so we've been waiting for you. And once we got you, I don't think management was ever going to wait around until you were, completely comfortable, because like I mentioned, there's an awful lot of stuff bottlenecked. Very valuable stuff. Also, the government seems to have been probing this idea a little more closely than they like lately. So management is super focused on getting some results of labs ASAP, and that's why you're a little more advanced along the whole body replacement path than you might have anticipated." He swallowed. "But there's good news. You get to go out." "What?" I said. "I'll be honest. What they were planning was pretty bad. They wanted you attached to the parts but not able to control them. We'd move them for you and read your sensory feedback. They said it was the quickest way to test, which, I guess it is, but still, that's a little inhumane in our opinion. Being connected to tech but not able to control what it does. That's like the ultimate user. Anyway, Carl ruined everyone's plans, so now they let us activate you. It's actually a great opportunity, because if you show them you can be trusted, they might even let you stay active." "Little angry now," said Mirka. Said Jason, "let me explain the Carl situation. Do you know Carl?" "Of course you do. I forgot, because we weren't allowed to tell you about him, but we were working with Carl before he went crazy. So what happened was Carl came back. He turned up on the front lawn, which was a surprise to security because, well, they expected him, but not at the front door. There are plenty of entrances, and a guard knows them all. Of course, they had people in the lobby. They put snipers on the roof, guys in mounted Hummers, prototype weaponry from speculative military products. There was a sonic gun in the garage. The black lawn was sown with EMP mines. And the lobby guys had, well, electroshock cannon, like a taser firing a couple darts a minute. And the problem was no one asked our opinion. If they had, things would have been different. But users, they never spend the time to properly understand the technology. They only want to learn the bare minimum, enough to make it work. And that's just not viable when the technology is as powerful. We're really at a point where users, in this sense, are becoming obsolete, I think. I don't think the word can be adequately navigated by someone who doesn't understand tech anymore. But anyway, so Carl turns up. I don't know if anyone told you, but when he left, Carl took some stuff. He took a fiber shield. Did you go to the fiber shield presentation? It's a bomb, but it throws out tiny fiber strips, a fog of micro ribbons. They float in the air, tens of millions of them, and their ends are sticky. They're harmless, but a good high-speed projectile moving through the fog hits a ribbon and gets pulled off course, gets unbalanced. It might go left, right, who knows. The point is, it diverts. In the presentation, they set up a target behind the fog and did a bunch of test shots, and everyone missed by a lot. It was kind of awesome. It's not exactly guaranteed protection, Like, I wouldn't want to stake my life on it, because the amount of diversion depends on how many ribbons the bullet hits, the angle at which collision, all these random variables. The project leader, that's Abeline Knudsen, who did that paper on disruptive resonances and inner ear fluid, well, she said fire enough bullets and eventually one will go straight, or straight enough. So actually thinking about it now, maybe the security guys knew that. Maybe that was their plan. If he uses the fiber shield, pour bullets into it. Well, Carl appeared on the lawn. We were in the labs watching the CCTV. Carl, we liked Carl. We liked him a lot. We were sad he ran off. Anyway, Carl sets off the fiber shield and boom, disappears in fog. Everyone starts shooting. So much gunfire, we could actually feel it. And you know how far down we were. The guys in the lobby with their electroshock cannon, they opened fire. They spray these million-volt darts, which are a lot lighter than bullets, of course, and when they hit the fog, they go everywhere. Left, right, up into the air, back at the security guys. They hit guards, they land on the roof, they spam the lobby, and everywhere. They're sparking and starting fires. It's already chaos, and then a Hummer takes one in the fuel tank. It is nothing but fire and smoke and people screaming, and Carl comes in and does what he likes, so now everyone's really keen to recapture Carl, said Jason. He frowned at something on my chest, tapped it, and looked at another cop who approached. Since public exposure at this point would not be good for the company, of course they sent security guards after them. And of course that didn't work because Carl is, well, better. So now it's your turn to go after Carl. The chains around my arms rattled to the floor. Both limbs moved smoothly into a loose, resting position. From this angle I could see that my left arm definitely did not have a hand, it had a hole. Arms online in 10. I said, why does 5, 4, 3, 2 stand by, said Jason. This might feel weird. Arms online. I felt a distant prickling like somebody telling me a story about my childhood. My right arm, the one with tripod fingers, twitched. I realized I had done that and was immediately struck with a bolt of agonizing phantom pain. I screamed and tried to grab the arm, to unbend the muscles. My other arm swung in an arc. Jason ducked. My metal limbs clanged together. I tried to cry out but had no breath. Jason shouted. Lab assistants attacked laptops. The bulbous arm made a rapid clicking noise, like a 9-year-old riding a bike downhill with playing cards stuck to the spokes. I had seen a boy cruising like that once when I was a kid. I had thought it was the coolest thing ever. Dr. Newman, stop that. You'll damage the hammers. Dampening full spectrum. The pain subsided. I whimpered that soundlessly against the return. Sorry, said Jason. We're still feeling our way around here. Don't clench your left fist. That's a mental command for firing. My teeth chattered. Firing what? Aha, you have a Mac 701 rotary cannon in that arm, he grinned. Nice, huh? I began to shake. Take them off. Dr. Newman, don't want this. The gun arm rattled, stopped, rattled. Dr. Newman, Dr. Newman. A window opened in my head. Through it poured Jason and his desire for me to calm down. I felt his compassion and excitement and awe, and when I did calm down, I felt his gratitude. It was extraordinary. What had Jason called it? Better voice? That was underselling it. This was like calling sex better hugging. Thank you, he said. Thank you. There's a lot of ammunition in that arm, but it's not unlocked. That was one of Connery's conditions. We can enable it when you're clear of the building. And just so you know, we can remotely disable it. That was another condition, which sucks, I know, but we won't need to do that. Just try to, not shoot anything except Carl. Connecting subsystems. Muscle spasms ran through my legs. Before I could inhale, the pain was gone. Better, said a boy in a white t-shirt. We're getting this. Response is verified. We have a solid feedback loop. Screen is green. I found a window in my head, the one Jason had climbed through. I pictured his face in it and poured a message through it. No, not doing this. Said Jason. The window closed. He turned to Mirka. They eyed each other silently. Fine, said Mirka. She handed off a laptop and approached Dr. Newman. She brushed a hair from my forehead. The thing Jason has not told you is that once Carl gained entry to the building, he came here to this room. He stood beside you. You were unconscious. Your arm was detached. It seems to us that Carl thought you were dead, or that your death was imminent. He left. He located your friend Lola, and he took her. I'm sorry. It's highly likely she's still alive, said Jason. I mean, we don't think he took her to cannibalize her parts. We think it's more of an affection thing. We spent time with Carl during recuperation. He talked about her a lot. He hooked at Mirka, then back at me. Okay, well, I think that's everything. Do you have any questions? Any? I said, questions. Yeah. My lips stretched. I exposed teeth. I felt dizzy. The contour 3s bent, and hoof came forward and met the ground and fired locking pins into it. Snack, snack. Jason and Mirka hopped back. I stared at my foot, the hoof. I raised it and swiveled it. I wiggled a flat metal toe, and it did as I meant. I had not made this, but still it was interesting. I watched the toe move back and forth. Jason cleared his throat. Mirka put her hand on his arm. I kept moving the toe. I lowered it and raised the other hoof and set it back down. I looked around at the cables and tubes coming out of my body. I swung my pronged claw arm in an arc and swept half a dozen cables off me. One sparked, and I felt a temporary heaviness in my parts, followed by a lifting warmth emanating from my abdomen. I stepped forward. Cords popped from my metal skin. Lab assistants yelped and scrambled out of the way. Shut him down, someone said, and Jason said, no, wait. In the steel finish of a cabinet, I saw my reflection. I saw it with better eyes. My head was metal. Black bands ran across the bridge of my nose, my forehead, and my chin. These glimpses of skin were all I had. Everything else was metal. I said, am I wrong? Jason crept forward. No, Dr. Newman. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. I nodded. Servos in my neck whispered. I felt scared, but okay. I said, where? I clomped through the Better Future corridors, escorted by cats and security guards. From the expression of the guards, I was either an awe-inspiring technological miracle or the worst thing they had ever seen. I was not quite sure of myself. They led me to the stairs, and I hesitated, but the 3s took the steps easily, cantilevering to maintain a solid footing. There is something deeply satisfying about a system that works exactly like it's supposed to. I'm not sure everyone feels this way. I might be an engineering thing. But by the time we reached the bottom of the stairs, I was kind of in love. They led me to the underground garage. This was to avoid being seen by emergency services people who were crawling around above ground. I didn't understand how the garage was supposed to make any difference since it exited in the same general area. But that wasn't my problem. The garage had its own generator and halogen lights making everything blindingly bright or lost in impenetrable shadow. Better future vans and Hummers idled in the dark, chrome reflected my supernovas, tailpipes belching fumes. I blinked and the scene normalized, and my eyes adding information from infrared and ultraviolet, filling in fields and illuminating motion. Hold here a second, said Jason. The cat swarmed. I was interfaced with. I felt impatient and my legs hiccuped forward. Whoa, said Jason. Wait up. He thought it was me, but it wasn't. I remembered Cassandra Cottery asking, Your legs didn't start talking to you, did they? But that wasn't anything to do with me. That was a software glitch. Maybe these threes had the same software. It wouldn't have been rewritten from scratch. The glitch could still be there. It could be in everything. Dr. Newman, Mirka approached. Just while we are running through the final checks, there is one thing I must raise. There is potentially an issue with Lola's better heart. The military function. The EMP draws a great deal of power. There is a safety margin, of course. Even after EMP, the battery has much power to maintain heart function, and the EMP will not fire unless the battery is full, except that part is perhaps not fully functional. We do not think it anything to be concerned about, but, well, management said there was a woman on the table who needed to install, and we were forced to act before we were ready. The EMP should not have fired twice. It definitely should not have done that. I saw the subject, that is, Miss Shanks, and perhaps this was the light, but her skin looked gray, which to me suggests the battery is drained to the point where it impacts her heart function. And please do not look so worried, because the heart needs only a little power to pump. It will definitely not stop, we think, but if the safety mechanism is non-functional and our heart rate rises above the trigger threshold, then the EMP might fire. Again, which would be bad. The battery does not have that capacity, so again, this is just a precaution. I do not want to make your life harder, and I know you have a lot on your plate, but if you do find Lola Shanks, it would be extremely good to avoid making her scared or excited or engage in any kind of exercise. All clear, said Jason. A van door opened and a woman climbed out. I had seen her outline in infrared, but not realized who it was. A neat rectangle of plaster covered her left ear. Her hair was gray. A thin rivulet of dried blood traced a curve from her hairline past her cheekbone. Charlie, before you go, Cassandra Cottery stopped. She stared at my crotch where Aline was kneeling, studying a device jacked into a flip-up port. What is that? It's a simple way to interface with... You put a port in the main transport bus... Shut up, said Cassandra Cottery. I went to Yale. Did any of you freaks know that? My advanced antitrust lecturer said I had a relentless desire to organize, her words. She said she would follow my career with interest. Her voice shook. And look at this crap. No one spoke. Elaine unplugged her device from my groin with a pop. Cassandra Cottery shook her head. I felt awkward because unless something happened soon, there was a real risk I might run through her. Charlie, she inhaled, I just want to say please be careful. She walked back to the van. Door slammed. The cat shuffled away. It was time. I followed the black van up the ramp. It moved slowly as if afraid of leaving me behind. I felt insulated. Didn't they know what I was? Kick it, suggested my legs, not in words, but I could feel their desire. The window in my head opened. I thought I could close that window if I wanted. I was developing a feel for the interface. Dr. Newman, we're almost at the top. Are you ready for some acceleration? Yes, I thought. The van sprang ahead. I didn't need to instruct the threes. They shifted into a lope by themselves. The first time I'd run on artificial legs, they had tried to shake every bone out through the top of my head. But this was like a river cruise. Improvements to the gait model, shock absorption through the torso, and of course, I had fewer bones. A rectangle of light appeared. As the ramp broadened, Hummers slid up their side. Fresh air slapped my face. I was outside. The cars turned to the road, and the threes followed. I got too close to a Hummer, and my gun arm clanged against its side. The Hummer rocked. Its tires squealed. I thought, was that deliberate? I was talking to my parts, but they couldn't hear me. They weren't conscious, but it was the best model I had for this behavior, so I was going with it until I figured out something better. Okay, then. I veered left. My gun arm kissed the Hummer's door. I pushed, gentle but firm. The Hummer fought back. White smoke steamed from its tires. The Jason in my head radiated alarm, and I gently closed the window on him. I pushed the Hummer until it popped out of formation and spun in a smoking half-circle. Then I accelerated through the gap and left them behind. Wind blasted by, tearing at my eyes. For the first time since I had gained consciousness, I felt glad to be alive.